Moo juice, good old cow's milk. Most of us were raised on it. Wouldn't have thought about drinking anything else when we were kids. Got milk? Milk does the body good, but not everybody. We've kind of realized over the last few years, some people have a sensitivity to milk, causes some significant tummy trouble. We usually call that lactose intolerance, but it turns out most people who think they're lactose intolerant probably aren't. You're just drinking milk from the wrong cows. These days, there's a milk for everybody. Come on, let me take you where the food comes from. Everybody knows where milk comes from. We all know where milk winds up. What we got to figure out is how does the milk get from here into here? Audrey and Daniel McLellan. Multi-generation dairy farmers, dairy processors, dairy packers. In fact, we're here in, I guess this is Temple Terrace, Florida.
Yes, sir.
Your bottling facility is right here. I guess people drive by here all day long and don't know what's going on here. This is very much your present. We've got all our lovely choices of chocolate, strawberry. I think I'm going with strawberry. You good with the chocolate?
Yes, absolutely.
Go with white milk.
White milk, the good old white milk. Now, I have not drank milk out of a carton like this probably since I was in school. So that's when your history was being made, is when I was in school. Oh, that's good. That's good. So this is your present day, but this is your history. And we're talking, I don't know, we were trying to count the generations, Daniel. We know your dad, Dale, is really the one who began this transition just from being a dairy farm to being a processing facility and being a packaging facility. But his father was a dairyman, his grandfather was a dairyman. Y'all have been part of this area and this industry for many generations. The farm is in Lecanto, Florida.
Correct.
It's about an hour north of here.
Yes, sir.
So the milk is packed,
Milk's very
retrieved,
fresh. Yeah.
and packed there, comes straight down to Temple Terrace.
Yes, sir.
From that point, what happens?
From that point, it gets offloaded into a receiving silo.
Now, that's where we see the tanker pull under there, and,
Yes, sir.
and then it's actually pumping that milk out into those big containers.
Yes, sir. It's pumped out into a 30,000 gallon tank.
30,000 gallons.
From that point, we feed 2 cold milk separators. That's unique because most people hot milk separate, but we still cold milk separate. So we make everything into skim. Cold milk separation is done while the product's 42 degrees or less. A hot milk separation is done in the HTST system where the milk's approximately 155 degrees. Our customers that buy our heavy cream prefer cold milk separation because it stacks better when it's whipped, and it's a better product for ice cream.
So is it just a better way to separate the milk, or?
It's better, but it's about half as fast.
Okay, so that's a commitment that M&B has made.
Yep.
Is we're gonna go for that quality component there.
Yep.
Rather than the speed component.
We always try to focus on putting out a good product regardless of the speed.
And that said, I did see things moving pretty quickly in there. So it goes from the truck, it's pumped out into the silos. From there, that's where it goes into the separation.
Yes,
That's
sir.
where you're separating out the cream
Yep.
from everything else
From the
that,
skim,
that
yep.
comes out of there.
From there, it goes into another silo. It's blended into either 1% chocolate, strawberry, lactose-free, whatever it is, batch they're making. Right now, we're packaging about 100,000 gallons of raw milk a day.
And let's just clear something up real quick. Chocolate milk does not come from brown cows.
No, sir.
These are actually the flavorings, all of that is mixed here
Yes.
on the premises.
So it's 2 separate systems.
Okay.
The milk's made in a whole separate room. It goes through what's called a liquefier, which we dump our chocolate powder, our sugar into, blend that with milk to get it liquefied. Then we pump it over into our HTST. It goes through a homogenizer where it's made one. Then it goes to a pasteurized tank. From there, it's pumped out of there and goes straight to the filler.
So from the filler, that's where it's actually going into these cartons, which I thought was really cool to go through, and I don't know how I thought it came. They come flat.
Yep.
They're loaded into that hopper.
Yep.
The machine folds them, stamps them, seals them. They're filled, then they're sealed. They're out the door. We saw a lot of robot arms and everything else. A lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of things that could go wrong, Daniel.
A bunch. One machine makes 340 of these a minute on 4 lines.
340.
So what that equates to is 85 cycles a minute. That's faster than you can see. So a lot of times when we're having an issue with a machine, all the new cell phones have slow motion video cameras on them.
All right.
I was doing it this morning. You get down there, you slow motion video it, and you can see it at an eighth of the speed, and you can actually see what's taking place.
See where the bug in the works
That's right.
is that you ordinarily wouldn't be able to see because it'd just be whizzing
It's
by.
too fast.
What are some of the things that can happen? Just a piece break, a timing belt get off?
Things where, you know, if you figure out one machine puts out 320,000 cartons a day, that means it cycled, you know, divide that by 4 and it cycled 80,000 times a day. So you're going to have wear points where things are going to create a little more moving than you want. And it's just something you try to identify and repair on the weekends.
Dale, folks at home wonder, how do I know my food is safe? And I think that's one of the biggest issues that agriculture, farming, the food industry has, is that trustability from a food safety measure. They just don't understand how seriously people like you and everybody who's feeding them takes food safety. This whole lab is testimony to that.
So I'll walk you through something real quick. At our farm, before we load a tanker, we check and make sure that it does not contain antibiotics. Our co-op, Southeast Milk, if you ever have a problem with your milk and you report it to them, they will pour it out and pay you for it.
Right.
So that's the first step. When the milk gets here, even though it's already been tested, we agitate it, pull a sample to bring up to this lab, and they run multiple tests. One test that they run is antibiotics again, just to make sure.
Make double sure.
In case somebody tried to be cute,
Right.
we make sure it's good. And then we bring it into the lab here and we check for cryoscope, which is a freeze point of milk. And what that proves out is nothing's been added. No water, no chemical, no nothing can be added.
So it is pure, raw, undiluted milk, and you're checking for everything, any bacterial counts, anything that shouldn't be in that food supply before it goes to your packing and processing line.
Exactly, and we're looking at a machine here, and what this machine is, a very expensive machine that does that for us very quickly. This is kind of new for us. We've traditionally used the microscope back here for what a microscopic count,
Right.
But at the velocity of the tankers we're selling now, we need to be able to move quicker on our sample counting, so we had to step up.
Now what's interesting is if your grandfather came in this room, his eyes would probably pop out of his head, especially when you told him that one machine cost over $100,000. But they were also practicing food safety even then. They were using the microscopes. They were taking the sampling. They were doing things. So forever, farmers and food providers have been interested in keeping the food supply safe.
That's exactly what we have done over the years, the industry, not us. What we've done over the years is we've made things faster and more accurate, have accountability for record keeping and things of that nature. So it's definitely improved from Granddad's day, but Granddad's day did have a system.
And that was what they could do at the time. And this is how it goes. I think we call that progress, don't we?
We do.
Mr. Dale McLellan, I got to say, I've been a lot of places to talk to a lot of people. I've never been to one that when I got to the county line, their name was on the sign, and so I knew I was in the right place. You are a dairyman. You are the son of a dairyman. You are the grandson of a dairyman. I would suspect you're probably the great-great-grandson of a dairyman. How far back in history do you know have your people been farming, and how long have they been in dairy?
On my mother's side of the family, I'm the third generation, and on my father's side, it wasn't a complete succession, although my father was a dairy farmer, but it was one more generation.
It's pretty safe to say your DNA is in this dirt right here around us.
Pretty much. My passion's in this business.
But there's more to come. You've got generations coming along behind you now. You're not the last generation of M&B. In fact, you've got one son more or less overseeing the farm operation here, and another son and daughter-in-law overseeing the packaging plant.
I'm so blessed to have family that cares about what we do, and they're not just here because they're part of a family that owns a company. I think Leon likes his job, the son that runs this farm, and I think Daniel and his wife Andre are very passionate about their job. If you don't believe it, cross one of them one day and we'll find out. But they believe in what we do and they work very hard. And it, in a way it makes me feel guilty. Here we are doing a show about me, and this is no longer my legacy, it's become theirs, and they've done things to make our company great and better, faster, blah, 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 than I ever did. So I feel flattered to be sitting in the chair today getting this interview, but also, there's people that put me here.
Your grandfather really started what is now M&B Dairy.
Well, the way that actually happened, my grandfather owned and operated Sunnybrook Dairy, which is where I worked.
Okay.
And we unfortunately went broke and closed in 1979. I was milking a few cows then, not as Sunnybrook, but as M&B. And after about 8 years of being shuttered, I was able to convince my grandfather. I didn't have to convince him very hard, but he grew enough faith in me that he was willing to take a chance on reopening the old milk plant as a juice plant.
In some of our conversations, what I sense has got you most excited now, and I think it's good reason to be excited. Something you call A2 milk. Now, when we go to the supermarket now, we go down the milk shelf, we see milk with DHA, milk with omega-3s, low fat, 1%, 2%, whole milk, super whole milk, blah, 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 the whole thing. And lately I've started to see one that pops up, A2 milk. Let's talk a little bit about what A2 milk is and how you are transitioning your herd from A1 or a mix of A1 and A2 to A2, and why. I got a call from a school teacher in a county close to the plant, and she was wanting me to go to the principal and have the principal let the kids take water instead of milk, and she named off some minority groups that were very high percentage of lactose intolerance. I started emailing people within the dairy industry, and one guy came back to me. His name is Don Benink, and Don is an 80-year-old guy that when he was 30 said, I don't like being a lawyer, I want to be a dairy farmer, and he changed his whole life to being a dairy farmer, and he was highly successful as a dairy farmer. All right.
But he was a research junkie. He just could not research.
Right.
He researched continuously things. And I was telling Don this story, what do you think we should do? I was scared to death, and he said, Dale, it's probably not lactose. And I said, what do you mean it's not lactose? Everybody's lactose, lactose, lactose. He said, well, I travel over Europe all the time and Southeast Asia, and he said, I'm finding that a lot of the people that think they have a lactose intolerance are actually an A1 protein intolerance. And he went on to teach me that dairy milk had either A1 protein or A2 protein,
and
or
that
a combination.
depends entirely on the cow.
On the cow.
And that is it's a genetic thing, same as I might have type A blood and you might have type B blood.
Right.
The exact same kind of thing. Certain cow herds have an A1. Is that an enzyme? Is it a protein?
It is a protein, and there's A1 and A2 are a combination thereof.
What you saw was in Northern Europe was predominantly A1 cattle.
It was.
Whereas in Asia, Spain, Africa, the cattle were predominantly A2.
Correct.
What you're doing and what others are seeing is the opportunity to create a market for A2 milk so that thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people who think they're lactose intolerant can actually have milk because they can process the A2 milk and they cannot process the A1 milk.
We, Leon here, took and had DNA samples pulled. We sent them all off. We had 32% of our cows were naturally A2.
So you had a decent jump start anyway.
We did. And then the rest was A1, A2 combination thereof, or just A1. We feel like we're spending some sweat equity trying to save our industry.
It sounds like you're always busy and you're always thinking, and you probably are laying there thinking things over. But when you stop that, you got to be pretty happy about the way things have worked out.
Happiness creates complacency. And you can't be complacent in our business, because while our competitors are busy trying to catch up with us, we're already on to the next thing and trying to stay one step ahead. I feel good about my kids and their interest in what we do. But I hope one thing I teach them is don't get complacent. You got to keep moving.
Always, always. You know, usually when you're surrounded by this many cows, I'll put it this way, you're watching on television so you can't smell this. Here's the amazing thing, I can't either. Leon McLellan, you are in large part responsible for that. You're Dale's oldest son. You are pretty much the farm manager here in Lecanto at the farm. This place smells great, which is to say it doesn't smell at all. How do you do that?
Well, we just put a lot of pride in what we do. We keep everything clean. We have a lot of community interaction anyways.
Right.
So I try to keep everything nice and tidy and neat and in order.
Now you're the oldest brother. We talked to your younger brother, Daniel. We asked him what he was doing growing up, if he was always working on the farm. He's like, no. He said, that was Leon. I was always out riding my bike. So Daniel already told us you kind of got tapped early. Was that by choice, or did Mr. Dale just grab you and say, come on, we're going to work?
No, it was by choice. As long as I can remember, I've always wanted to be in the dairy business and to be a dairy farmer. I just knew it from the time that I was old enough to work, and I was 8, 9 years old working.
People think that sounds like child cruelty or labor laws, but there's a lot for a kid to do on a farm and to do safely and to be some help actually to the family.
It is a lot of work. There's a lot of things you can do. You can spend 24 hours a day working and still not get caught up. It'll keep you out of trouble for sure.
What's a day like for you here? We've seen, I mean, this is, we're looking at what, 700?
Yes, sir.
They get milk 3 times a day?
Yes, sir, they do. So we start at 5 a.m. every morning.
Right.
We're done milking around 10:30, and then we start again at 1 p.m.
Right.
We're done around 6:30, and then we start again at 9 p.m. and we're done around 2:30 in the morning.
So in other words, you're never done really, because it's just going to start again over the next time. I'm sure you've got help for that, but there's always the man on the ground who ultimately is responsible for everything, and I guess they're looking at you when that buzzer goes off.
Yes, they are. I have a very good crew. I'm very fortunate for all the employees that we have here at M&B. They work very hard to make me look like a rock star.
At this point, to look around and go, this is on me, this is my part, this is what I carry. How does that help you relate to your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather?
Well, I hope that they're proud. It has a lot of relation to what I do because I want to be just like them, and I have always watched them. So my great-grandfather was, he passed in 2002, so I was old. I was, 23, 24 years old. Right. So I remember him. I spent my whole childhood with him and my dad, and always looked up to them, and so I wanted to be like them as well, and I'm very proud of where we're at, and I think they are too.
Now here you stand.
Yes, sir.
So, and perhaps another generation of McLellans coming along behind in some capacity somewhere.
I hope. I think they are. I have a 15-year-old son that is interested in it, and I do have 2 daughters that seem interested as well.
I've heard your brother's 2 daughters are interested in the plant side down in Tampa. This McLellan chain that we look back and can't see the beginning of, we'll look forward and can't see the end of it either.
That's right, yes, sir.
Dale, I tell you, we've about closed the farm today, and I think we've seen about everything. One thing we did not get to do was meet your wife, Mary. She was called away by other duties today, but something tells me, as in the case in most farm families, she's probably the backbone of all of this.
Well, my wife, Mary, is the backbone. She's been my moral compass and done so many good things of keeping us focused on what we're doing. And our granddaughters had to have a procedure today, and Mary said, I apologize, but I'm going to be with her.
It's always something, and a farm wife has to be able to do everything and cover every gap. And I know she deserves every bit as much of the credit for this as you do, and maybe a little bit more.
A little bit more, because she has been the one that gave me the ability to be away while she kept our family functioning.
The McLellan family story might sound very unique to you. Blessedly, out here, it's not. This is kind of typical of what we run into. The people who feed us care very much about what they're doing. They're very passionate about it. They're very committed to taking care of you out here where the food comes from.